Welcome to the MindSolve podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Jonathan. The topic of this episode is career mastery. This is about mindfully designing a sustainable and healthy approach to navigating your professional career as an integrated work-life journey. In this episode, I will cover relevant evidence-based information and findings to challenge the conventional thinking about career stability and navigation. In the postmodern world that we live in, the development of a career journey can be an exciting and joyful experience. The goal here in this episode is to provide you with some valid and reliable solutions to help you enhance your career that you can apply immediately today. So what I want to welcome you all to do as you're listening in or watching is to ask yourself right now, are you experiencing stress and stabilizing and navigating your professional career? To be mindful as you listen and learn and deepen your self-awareness in this time by taking notes. I want you to really think about yourself selfishly in terms of what you need in your career, what you desire in your career, and what will help propel you in the future towards a better work-life balance. Let's face it, every career must take its own course. You and only you have the right to determine, design, and navigate your professional career. However, doing so with the understanding that your experience is unique to you. It's best to be free in your imagination to expand your opportunities of thought about what it is that is going to help you maximize your unique talents, strengths, and career aspirations without comparing yourself to others. I believe it was in the words of the former great president, Theodore Roosevelt, comparisons is the thief of joy. So this is a time for you to really focus on you. And I want you to be listening in as if I'm speaking directly to you and you alone. So let's get started with our agenda. We're going to take some time to cover some relevant information on career instability and career navigation. We'll start there first to give you some of the backdrop of the evidence that's more recent within the last 6 to 12 months so that you can reflect and have context on how that relates to you specifically. And then following that, we're going to cover two really robust, valid, and reliable solutions to help you to reduce the stress associated with designing the work-life balance in your career journey to master your own career. So let's get started. First, let's look at what we have from the U.S. Department of Labor recently. This is recent reporting in the last 6 to 12 months. The U.S. Department of Labor reported the following findings. On average, an average person will change their career 5 to 7 times during a working life. 5 to 7 times in a working life. So no longer is there this proposition of the Industrial Revolution of cradle to the grave is what they used to call it, that you come out of high school or come out of college and start a job at one company. You work there for 40 to 45 years, you retire, and you spend your remaining golden years enjoying life in retirement. That is not the path that most of us will experience in our lifetime anymore. That time has passed. So again, remember, an average person will change careers 5 to 7 times during a working life. Furthermore, approximately 30% of the total workforce will now change jobs on average every 12 months. That's 3 out of 10 people will probably change their job on an average of every 12 months. Now, when I first learned that, that was shocking for me. But then I realized that we live at a time where we have multiple generations, multiple different industries that are evolving, that are advancing. So that's a lot more realistic than what I originally thought that could happen. 3 out of 10 people are changing their positions or their career role every 12 months. So career instability, in terms of the traditional sense of stability, is really a shock to the system. It's a shock to the work life balance. And it can cause a lot of stress in your life and in your family if you're not managing it well. What this is telling us is that career movement is more fluent than it's ever been before. And also, the circumstances related to employers who are making changes for their business reasons is also causing some of these changes as well. So it's not just you making a choice to change your career or change your profession. In some cases, it may be the employer or the industry in which you work in that causes the change. So let's look at some additional research that we found recently in the last 6 to 12 months. According to the Pew Research Center, about 60% of workers who changed their jobs or careers recently actually earn more income as a result of that, despite inflation. So, not all of this movement is negative. Sometimes making a career change could have a social economic benefit to you and your family by earning more income. Moreover, workers are seeking employment with higher pay and healthier work environments that support a better work life balance with less stress. So, we have choices. You have choices. It's not just about how much you're making in income. It's also about how well does that career fit your life and your work life integration with your family time, your ability to do the things that really give you joy in your life. That is a big factor now based upon the recent findings in the research. Let's go deeper into this. When we think about career instability, we also have some information that came through recently from the US Chamber of Commerce that did a poll. And I'm going to highlight some of these points. I'm going to read it to you so I can get the specifics and be clear on what the evidence reveals to us. The US Chamber of Commerce discovered that people are not just quitting their jobs. Some are switching careers by going into an entirely new industry. And not for just the traditional reasons of better pay or benefit packages. What we found in the research is that COVID pandemic, the stress of that impact and the lingering impacts of the COVID pandemic was highly noted as a vital reason for people to reevaluate what they wanted for a career, causing more professionals like you to focus on work-life balance, more flexibility in scheduling, more positivity in the work environment, which trumped earning more money or performance-related bonuses or benefits. And what came of that poll were top 5 themes that really resonated when I read this that I want to bring to your attention. Number 1, workers are aligning their transferable skills to higher growth industries and making moves before they're moved on. So some of you are in that boat. Some of you are thinking about that in terms of changes in the industry. You see the writing on the wall that maybe the career you're in now is going to be altered by technology advancements or changes in your industry. So some workers are saying, look, I've got a great set of skills and talents that I'm not using, and they fit other industries. So why not explore a new opportunity? That's number 1. Number 2, workers without a college degree are finding greater opportunities by pursuing with specialized skills or credentials, career options that are now available. Some of them are even expanding into the gig economy, where they're doing several different gigs and they're making their income in different roles and different functions without having just one job or one career position. This is not the conventional thinking of a career, but it works for some. Workers are no longer willing to relocate, seeking employers who will allow them to work where they live and do remote work. I can personally remember a time when working with a corporation, a job would get posted and it would say required city or a limit number of cities that you had to work in. You had to show up in an office space that was designated for that position. And workers are pushing back on that. They're saying, no, if you can't offer me remote work, I'll go elsewhere. Workers' desire to work in a more inclusive and social justice, difference-making organization is also causing some of the movement. So it's not, again, about just quitting a job because you don't like it, but it's about what is the right fit for me or for you in this case in terms of what you're looking for in an employer to contribute towards the things that matter to you in your community: inclusiveness, social justice, environmental concerns, advocacy for beliefs or positions that you have that are fundamental to your work-life balance. And number 5, which keeps showing up in the research, is that workers are leaving burnout, stressful careers that require a lot of high contact with customers or clients that may be harmful to their mental health. So these are those high pressure positions that require a lot of transactional interaction with customers or clients. And some workers are just tired of the instability that comes with that type of work. So they're looking at roles that require less of that contact. This is a poll from 2021, so this was pretty recent. The question is, does this resonate for you in terms of your career instability or stability? Now, we talked a little bit about the poll. We talked a little bit about the findings. Let's talk about what's happening in the real world in terms of everyday news that is showing up on social media or your major news broadcast channels that is real in terms of employers. Here's just some highlights of recent major layoffs in the last 6 to 12 months. And some of these names you recognize very well. And again, this is no judgment on any of these employers or corporations. It's just simply the facts. In the last 6 to 12 months, Amazon has laid off 18,000 people, cut jobs, 18,000. Google, 12,000. Meta, 10,000. Microsoft as well, 10,000. Salesforce, a large employer, 8,000. IBM, a long-going large corporation, just laid off 4,000. Twitter, just about 4,000. And Goldman Sachs, a major financial firm, about 3,000. Now, I just listed several. There's many others. But if you add all that up, that's roughly about 70,000 career positions eliminated, impacting working professionals, their families, and their communities, and the current environment that we work and live in with lower unemployment rates that we claim. We're seeing employers who are focused on increasing their profit margins, cutting their costs, becoming more efficient, using more technologies to replace some of the work that's being done, and it's impacting careers of working professionals. This is evidence that there are factors outside of your control. A major corporation must make business decisions in the best interest of its shareholders, of generating sustainable profits, even if it means laying off human beings from jobs they hold as career positions. It's not personal, it's business. But the impact is personal to you. So career stability is a question that you have to ask yourself about your current career position? And what kind of stress is associated with not having the stability that you desire in your career or that you expect in your career? And how do you trust that the role you're in is going to be as valuable and important as it is today, tomorrow, or next year? It's very undetermined. So let's transition to the topic of career navigation. And this is a very, very important point to talk about. So again, I want you to pay attention in a way that matters most for you here, to be very selfish as you listen to this discussion about the myth of meritocracy. So what does that mean? Well, according to the Counseling Psychologist Journal, they did a research report in 2021 that provided some astounding points about the myth of meritocracy. And I'm going to take careful attention here to read some of this to you because I don't want to miss any point or paraphrase by missing some of the elements here. So let me read to you what it states here, taken directly from this research. The researchers defined American meritocracy as such. It's an ideological claim that an individual, regardless of their background, can obtain success if they put in the work to overcome any personal or societal obstacles. In this research, according to most of the scholars that they talk with, this is a myth proven out by the many social economic disparities that we see today in equal pay challenges, equal opportunities for career advancement, professional representation by diversity in specialized fields, and also the household wealth accumulation disparities between different races and ethnicities and cultural backgrounds. The research also examined and provided evidence that this ideological position does not account for culturally conditioned prejudice against certain individuals or groups. Furthermore, it does not factor in societal bias that mask inequality and oppression at the intersections of gender, race, ethnicity, age, and other identifications. So this reminds me of a quote that I really appreciate from the late, great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's all right to tell a man to lift himself by his own bootstraps, but it is a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. Not all of us start in the same place to have this opportunity through just hard work and determination and effort to see our careers advance at a pace and rate in which we need to really elevate ourselves, enhance our family's life socioeconomically, to climb the societal ladder. And it's stressful. It's almost outright gaslighting for someone to look you in the eye and tell you that hard work is all you need to make your career advance. It's a myth. This brings me to the question and discussion about diversity and inclusion. There's a lot of great work being done here. I'm happy to see that we've got major employers who are looking at ways to have more diversity representation in their organizations, advancement for people of different backgrounds, so that there's more opportunity for those that have been underrepresented or marginalized in the past. However, I want to take you through this visualization here for a moment. So just go along with me. And this is sometimes how diversity and inclusion might show up. It might show up like this for you. Visualize you're invited to a sit-down fine dining dinner party. When you arrive, you discover the best apparel that you're wearing is not considered sufficient. You're seated in an uncomfortable chair with lots of spacing from the host. Your eating ware is tarnished. The food that you're being served is subpar compared to the host. And throughout the dinner party, you're not allowed to speak without asking permission or when you do attempt to ask for access to after dinner activities, you're limited by the host. This is what diversity and inclusion feels like for some. You are diverse, you are included, yet you're not experiencing equity. Ask yourself in this moment, is this your diversity and inclusion experience today in your career navigation? It's a provocative question. Diversity and inclusion without equity is simply performative action. And it doesn't allow those who need more resources, more access to resources or opportunities to advance their careers. So I propose that myth of meritocracy to remind you that you are a human being, not a human doing. Even when you're working and achieving your goals and being highly productive, advancing your career and mastering your career, the stress associated with those efforts and opportunities is not predicated only on what you can produce. There's other factors at play. Ask yourself right now, are you feeling the effects of that? Are you experiencing those challenges? So if you're taking notes so far, we've covered some evidence. Here's a couple of the questions I want to propose to you as we get into the solutions. Think right now and ask yourself, what is the level of stability and navigation clarity in your career? How stable is your career position? How clear is your path of where you're going to go? Not all careers are vertical. And that's another myth, that you're climbing a ladder in your career. Many times, career takes meandering paths to get you to different places in the journey. And it's up to you to master that process. How does your career meet your work-life balance goals? I've talked to clients, and maybe this applies to you, who feel great about their title, great about the income that they're earning, fantastic about the exposure that they're getting, but they're missing their families. They're missing out on moments that matter. They're saving all their celebration to moments of vacation. And they're finding that they're not investing and spending their time with the people who matter most in their lives. That's stressful. That's unsustainable. And that's not healthy. And then the other question I want you to present to yourself and think through. What do your experiences, your skills, and the relationships that you have today do for your career journey? Are you having the right kind of experiences in your work, in your career? Have you acquired the skills that you really want to acquire and develop? Are you doing the kind of work that gives you an opportunity to really sharpen your skill sets? And are the relationships that you have today, are they highly transformational, helping you grow and develop through mentorship and sponsorship, or are they highly transactional? You're only as good as your last contribution, and you're always wondering about the stability of your career. These are important questions for you to ask yourself and to answer for yourself. All right, let's get into the solutions. So not all is lost, not all is despair. The first of the two solutions here that you can start to take action on today is to identify who you are in terms of your natural personality, your strengths and capabilities. And I thank heavens for Dr. John Holland's RIASEC model and theory. So let me define what that is. The Holland's RIASEC is a way in which you can determine by how closely your personality traits match a particular vocation and use that information to really galvanize your career to create more joy, more satisfaction, more work-life balance integration by doing work that really fuels your heart, puts fire in your oven, really gets you going, and really works for your life. So let me define what the RIASEC is in terms of the different career pathways that might fit. And some of these converge. And there's assessments online you can take from reputable providers. I'm not going to recommend any specific, but there are out there. If you Google RIASEC, Holland's RIASEC, you'll find that there's different assessments you can take, or you can work with a professional that can help you go through this process as well. And certain universities offer this as well. So let's go through these. So let's start with R. R stands for realistic. This is a career path that's more focused on practical, scientific methodology. This would be something like becoming a veterinarian or a public health professional or a dentist or a doctor, something that's very specific science. I, investigative. This is more of an observational, analyzing, and evaluating, someone who's a critical thinker who does that over and over and over again. This could be a researcher or environmentalist specialist, something that's very specialized in that approach where you're constantly taking in information and you're examining and investigating to get new findings or to conduct research for that matter. A is for artistic. Artistic is pretty obvious, right? Innovators, people who are intuitive, creative. That could mean anything from producing music or art, performing arts, right? Entertainment field of any type, artistic creation. S stands for social. This falls into a category that brings in and blends in the educational field. So this could be also with health and professionals as well. So you could be a social worker, a teacher, an educator, someone who enlightens and informs or trains or develops others. E is for enterprising. This is a common one that we push in the sense of the myth of meritocracy, which is to influence, persuade, and perform. This can include, people who are operating as entrepreneurs, running their own businesses, or working at major corporations where they produce a product, whether it's tangible or intangible, to generate revenue for the outcome of profitability. Someone who's enterprising. And then final is C, conventional. This is more data-driven, analytical, detail-oriented. Someone could do work in this space like a biostatistician or a data administrator, working with a lot of data and information. In many cases where I've seen this instrument or this model used, typically an individual will find that they'll have a top 3 or top 2 that may converge. The question for you is, does any of these specific career angles speak to your spirit, your talents, your skills, or your desires for your work-life balance integration? And if it does, what can you do to start to master your capabilities to move in the direction to get more of what matches your personality as it relates to Dr. Holland's RIASEC? You can do this today. Do the research. Pull it up. It's available. So that's the first point. It's knowing who you are, knowing what your personality, your strengths and talents are, and matching that so that you can create more stability, knowing that there are things outside of your control. Industry changes, environmental changes. However, what's in your control is making a thoughtful, mindful choice about how you want to pursue your career and what kind of career position gives you the right kind of work-life balance. All right. The second solution is so much fun. And even I can say that as an introvert. It's informational interviews. So this has been around for quite some time. Depending on how it's done, it can be highly effective or not as effective. So what I'm going to give you right now to take note of is the most effective way of going about conducting a high quality informational interview that's going to help you with your navigation As you build stability and knowing what your personality match is, you also want navigation to master your career, to reduce stress, to create more work-life balance integration. So here's what that involves. After you have a sense of where you really see yourself fitting in that RISE set, let's say, for instance, you're really finding that when you assess yourself, you're highly investigative. You really like research. So what you want to do is you want to identify candidates that you can interview that are actually working in that respective industry or that professional career position. Once you identify an individual or individuals that you're interested in, do your research on them. Go to their LinkedIn profile, look at their background education, look at the things that they post, find out what they've published maybe in their work or their research. Understand what really appears to be their scope or their focus, right? What's their jam? What are they really into? Does it match what you're interested in? If you happen to know that person, it's an easier request to get 30 minutes on their calendar to have a conversation. And be very transparent. I'm reaching out to you for the purpose of asking you to allow me to conduct that informational interview. I'm interested in learning about you as a professional, about your background, and to get some insights from you about what I'm pursuing in my career. Most kind folk will respond pretty positive to that request, because most successful people in their career and profession love the opportunity to help others expand their careers and learn from their own experiences. So that's the first step. Identify the right candidates based upon their industry or their career profession. Do your research in that process of that first step. And then request the invite. And if you don't know the person and you know someone who knows them, ask for a referral, an introduction. After you've got the request submitted and you've got the confirmation that they're willing to meet with you, you want to conduct the 30-minute interview. And come prepared with questions about things that are going to matter most for you to take away from that interaction. Here's what you want to ask about. How did they decide on their career? What was it about the career position or pathway that they took that spoke to their own spirit and their own life purpose? There's a lot you can learn from that. What are some of the educational training and background experience that they had to invest in to get into that field, that career? Is second to that. And what's also really important to get a present day, current environmental perspective is to ask about their experience with highlights in their career and challenges in their career that they've had, with a forecast of what the future is telling them. Their firsthand account will give you great value on what you can expect as you think about pursuing this career. And then final, ask them for input on your career exploration. Where would they recommend you gain more knowledge? Who might they suggest you speak with? What are some experiences or groups or organizations or conferences that they recommend you attend? By doing this, by talking to another human being that's in the career, that's giving you their own experiences, you gain a greater navigation of how to master your own career. You reduce the stress of the unknowns. You eliminate the negative self-talk about what's possible. And you get to talk to people possibly who look like you, have a similar background that you have, that can inspire you and encourage you. And most even important than all of that, you have the opportunity to develop a transformational connection that can develop into a relationship that might become a mentorship or a sponsorship. I'm living proof of this. Most of the greatest opportunities that I've had the privilege and honor of experiencing have come from making those transformational connections through informational interviews. Let's face it, there's lots of job postings out there. There's lots of opportunities. But for the most part, people don't get hired or get opportunities based upon just purely their talent on paper of a resume or their qualifications from their degrees or their credentials. That, again, is the myth of meritocracy. Often, or more than often, Opportunities present to you based upon who knows you, who understands you, who's connected with you, and who wants to see you succeed. So reach out to those kind folk. Connect. Informational interviews. So we've covered the two solutions. And I want to wrap us up with this. You now have some relevant evidence-based information regarding career instability and career navigation and what that means in today's postmodern world. We've reviewed two core solutions that are mindful ways to start to master your career journey by knowing yourself using the Hollins-Ryasek to identify how your personality matches different career professions and opportunities, and how to conduct a high-quality informational interview. You can do this whether you're still in college, pursuing your education. You can do this if you've been 30, 50 years in your career. Informational interviews are never out of date or out of touch. They're always valuable investments of time. And by doing this, remember, it's up to you and you alone to master your career. It's not enough just to focus on how much you can produce as a human doing. That will be buying into the myth of meritocracy. It's about mindful awareness of your talents, strengths, and your work-life goals that are best for you and your family, along with the development of transformational relationships that will empower you to pursue a healthy, sustainable career journey. Again, a career is not a destination, it's a journey. So thank you for joining this MindSolve podcast episode, investing your valuable time listening and learning more about how you can master your career journey. As always, I invite you to subscribe to this podcast on your chosen platform, to subscribe to the MindSolve YouTube channel that we have, to stay up to date with upcoming episodes, to also go to the MindSolve website to subscribe and get updates on podcast episodes that are upcoming and updates from our organization. And please, if you like it, like the podcast on your platform, share this podcast with others you believe could benefit from this information. And more than anything else, as always, be mindful and choose joy. Regards, Dr. Jonathan.